Tonight's topic is Gnostic Campus Ministry. Our guest is Brother Jason Thu, who leads the campus ministry at Reed College under the auspices of the Rose Cross community in Portland, Oregon. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Bishop Lenny.
It's wonderful to have you, and just really happy to have you here and taking some time out. I know you're really busy. This is a topic that honestly was kind of new to me, the idea of a Gnostic campus ministry. I'm, of course, aware of our Gnostic parishes and study groups, but I always thought of campus ministry as something that's either reserved for the evangelicals with InterVarsity or Campus Crusade or the Navigators, or with some of the more mainstream denominations like the Roman Catholic Newman Centers. But you're actually heading up a Gnostic campus ministry as an outreach of the Apostolic Joanite Church. And how did this all come about? How did you come to be doing a Gnostic campus ministry?
Well, it's even stranger than that, because Reed College is such a secular place.
Okay.
The unofficial motto of Reed College is communism, atheism, and free love, and so it's a very interesting place to be. But of course, there are a couple of other spiritual groups on campus, like the Unitarians, and there is a mainline Christianity non-denominational group called All for Christ's Sake.
Okay.
And then I have my group, Red Cross. So it all happened by meeting Father Scott Rosbach of the Rose Cross Parish. And I was just curious, and I was meeting him, and then in my freshman and sophomore year, I was very active in doing things and trying to gain experience about organizing things and etc. etc. And I thought, why not we start a group of the Gnostic people here?
Okay.
And Reed College is very open to student organizations, and I don't have to pay anything. I can just sort of like reserve the space and set up a time and create a mailing list and call people's attention to my vision, basically. So that's how it happened. It's very easy and very smooth. It was a very smooth process. And
well,
yeah.
That's wonderful. I know that some campuses have very strict policies about religious groups operating on campus, but it sounds like you know it went pretty easily for you.
Yes, that's correct. It was very smooth.
Awesome. So, do you ever find it challenging to explain Gnosticism for students? I mean, do the students who join your group, are they mostly people who are familiar with Gnosticism, or are they inquirers who don't know much about it?
Well, first of all, I have to say that it is not a very large group.
Okay.
There are one or two regulars with a couple of other people off campus that we know. For example, Father Rosbach's family and friends and other people who are not the students. But at the same time, there are a couple of people who are on campus who know something about Gnosticism, but they're more spiritually inclined. Yeah, so it's kind of somewhere between. It's not totally ignorant.
Yeah, so it's like you have a mix of different levels.
Yeah, different levels, and some people are just there for an experience. Some people are there to have this community, not necessarily because of Gnosticism, but because of this community that we have in this organization. Sometimes, people from Portland who know about Gnosticism also comes here occasionally, and so it was very interesting mix of people. And
do you find, you mentioned that Father Rosbach and his family come, and there are some other people who are interested, and so do you find that as a campus ministry you're also a resource to even off-campus people?
Something like that. Sometimes
Yeah.
people just email me asking, "Oh, do you guys still do the Gnostic thing on your campus? Are you guys still active?" So I will be like, "Sure, of course." But at the same time, sometimes people email, but they don't really show up.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
That also happens. But I feel like I've been sort of like the resource person as I do this ministry. Not just with Gnosticism, not just with the this particular community. Sometimes people message me or email me about where to start their spiritual journey. So
Okay.
they come to me, and I tell them about our community. I tell them about Gnosticism. I also tell them about other options on campus or off campus or online resources or something like that. So I became some sort of tiny resource person there.
Well, I think that's absolutely wonderful, and congratulations. It's
Thanks.
interesting because what you're describing is not all that different from a lot of
Hmm.
parish and study group leaders around the country and around the world. But you're fortunate enough to actually have I think you have a space on campus. You have meeting space.
Right, right. We have a very beautiful chapel there.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? So you can actually meet in
yeah,
the chapel?
yeah. We almost always do masses in the chapel, and it's really beautiful. It's kind of 100 years old chapel that was built. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That is absolutely awesome. I'm really happy for you in that regard. Now, switching a little bit,
Hmm.
what is your? Do you have is there a campus chaplain there that you work with, or?
No, no. The school itself is very. Uh, it's totally unaffiliated with any relig- uh, religious denominations or any religion at all. Actually, the only thing that I have to work with is the students' activities office,
Okay.
which takes care of student organizations, student events, and yeah, basically it's a part of the system in the college. It
Okay.
it just take care of what student want to do and how student want to do their events.
Okay. So the chapel is under the student office. Then it's not under the guys. There's not a chaplain that oversees the chapel.
No,
Okay.
there's not a chaplain or any kind of religious
Okay.
staff members. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I used to work at a campus chapel when I was in seminary. I
Hmm.
worked at Northwestern University's chapel, and it was a much more
Right.
structured situation. Even though the school was officially secular, they'd been
Hmm.
endowed to employ a Protestant chaplain on campus
Hmm.
in perpetuity. So I was just kind of curious about your arrangement. Now, I do want to ask, now it sounds like you go to a fairly secular campus. Have you ever had any run-ins with, say, campus evangelicals or other more traditional religious groups?
Um, Not particularly. I cannot say so.
Okay.
There are different. There are definitely religious people, and they also come from different backgrounds and different denominations. But um, I don't really see any kind of like proselytizing people on
Okay.
campus or anything like that. There's a yeah, yeah, no, not like that.
All right. I was just curious because again, you have some church, you have some campuses again where you have a very different climate,
Hmm.
and so I was just kind of curious as to what yours was. But it sounds like it's so secular and open that just doesn't
Yeah,
really that element doesn't really exist.
and also usually students just get together just on their own way, and we're very like self-determined people,
Okay.
and we tend to just group with our own backgrounds and interests and culture basically,
Hmm.
and yeah.
Okay. Now, let's say somebody is watching this and they're a student on a campus someplace and
Uh-huh.
they are interested in Gnosticism, they consider themselves to be Gnostic. What would you and that they don't have a Gnostic group on campus, what
Right.
would you suggest that they do? If we can you give them some advice?
um First of all, I would always say to speak to people like you,
Okay.
um like online or
Mm-hmm.
um writing letters or something like that,
Sure.
just to start initiating the process. And then I think it would be nice to have to find like-minded people on campus, so that they can start getting ideas and bounce around on what they can do about things, and maybe they can start a study group and start reading things themselves and talk among themselves, and then the next step, if they want to do something larger and something more external, they can check the campus process and see what kind of guidelines would be there, what kinds of bureaucratic process that they would have to go through for forming a group or creating events, something like that. So I think these 3 steps would be a basic foundation for what students can do about campus ministry for Gnosticism.
I think that you make a really good point there when you suggest, I mean, obviously plugging into a larger Gnostic group can be helpful, but I think that you have a really good idea there is get the people together informally, see if you even have the interest before you start with the bureaucratic steps. I think that's excellent advice. Actually, I would probably advise it to not just campus groups, but most Gnostic and small church organizations. It seems to me like really good advice.
Right.
I think that's excellent.
I'm an economics major, so you have to find demand first.
All right. Absolutely. That's awesome. Awesome. Now, I'm going to flip that question around a little bit. What would you recommend to Gnostic churches and organizations and parishes out there that are looking and saying, hey, you know, there might be some college students that would be interested in what we're doing. What would you recommend that they do to try and reach out to students who might be interested?
Right. Well, I cannot say for all the campuses, but I'm just going to tell from my experience. Read for read off-campus people can just put on some flyers or something like that. Just I think it would be a good start, so that if you put flyers on campus, some people will get the attention. Some people will notice that, and I think that would be a good way to start the conversation. I don't think it would be a very good way to just stand around and hand out flyers in a pushy way.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
But just to put it out there subtly, and when people are around and when people see these flyers and other kinds of informational pamphlets, then they can come to you. And I think nowadays we have emails and Facebooks and phones, which is much more convenient than before, I think.
Yeah, so and you know, maybe even if a parish was having an event like a movie night or a book discussion night, maybe even with some popular literature, or you know, showing of say The Matrix or something like Philip K. Dick's books, and they're doing a book study group, with you know, coming on campus and saying, hey, we're having this event over at the coffee house. If any of you are interested, you know, why don't you show up and check us out?
Right. I think that would be good. And another idea that I got is also, again, to check with the campus bureaucracy and staff members and see whether they can help out, or whether they would be willing to sort of facilitate the reaching out process. And I think that will be really helpful and even much smoother, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, and you know, that's a possibility as well. I mean, as you point out, every campus does have its own bureaucracy, and I'm mentioning this as somebody who worked in a campus chapel, which had very strict rules. And I would advise any of my Gnostic brothers and sisters out there to check the rules on campus, because while public universities normally don't and can't have any rules against preachers coming on campus or people trying to organize, private schools do. And even as something as simple as passing out literature may be a violation of that school's rules, and that can get you into all kinds of trouble, which none of us can really afford to have happen to us.
Right. I think it not just only sort of creates some kind of trouble, but also it could hurt long-term reputation and long-term like possibility of cooperation with the campuses, I think.
Absolutely, because let's say, for example, the school has a religion department or a humanities department. There may be some room for collaboration there. There may be professors who are interested in Gnostic literature or world religions or whatnot, and that could be an opportunity for the local parish to say, "Hey, we could maybe help with some programming." So, I think you've got some great ideas there, and I would strongly encourage our Gnostic community, if you are part of a parish or are part of a study group, this is one option. And Brother Jason has really just given us some great information. And we're going to continue this discussion later on our podcast, Talk Gnosis After Dark, which is a little bit more freewheeling, and we can get more into things, and Father Tony will be joining us. So I do want to thank Brother Jason for taking the time to be on this show. And I do want to say, underneath this show, the video on YouTube, there is room for your comments. And I do want to ask a question. Are you in college, and would you participate in a Gnostic campus ministry if it was available to you? And conversely, if you are part of a parish or a study group or your clergy, would you be interested at some point in trying to figure out how to put together a Gnostic campus ministry? I would absolutely, I know all of us at Talk Gnosis would love to hear your responses and get some conversation going. Also, if you've enjoyed our show and found it helpful, you can help support the show by pledging a small amount, even just a few pennies per show, at patreon.com/Gnostic. You just pledge a very small amount. You can set a monthly cap on your donation so you don't pay more than you can afford or that you want to, and it directly supports the development of this program. Also, I wanted to mention to everybody that the Johannite Conclave is coming up in about 2 weeks here in Chicago, and it's promising to be a great time. And I have had some people asking me, no, it is not too late to sign up for Conclave. And absolutely, just get on the Johannite website, johnite.org, and click on. There's at the top. There's a tab for Conclave, and you can get connected with the Conclave organizers and get signed up. You do not have to attend the whole program. You don't have to be a Gnostic. If you just want to come for a few sessions, you're welcome to do so. So if you are interested, it's not too late. Also, I want to once again thank Brother Jason. Jason, if people wanted to get in touch with you or your ministry, would they do that through the Rose Cross Parish Community website?
There's a good way to come. Or you can send a message or an email to me as well. My email will be Jason, JASON, LEONG 16 @gmail.com. Jason.leong16 @gmail.com.
Thank you so much for being open to people who might have some questions or might want to get involved with your ministry.
Sure, definitely.
As always, we do appreciate your feedback and suggestions, and you can find us online on YouTube as well as on Facebook. Also, be sure to give us your comments or send us an email at talkgnosis@gnosticnyc.com. And coming up on Talk Gnosis, we are going to be having some interesting show topics coming up, including being a Gnostic in a mainline church, as well as some a show on initiatic orders. So stay tuned for those shows. And as always, this has been a production of the Gnostic NYC Network. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with your friends, click the like button, and subscribe to our channel. Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the views of Gnostic NYC or any other organization. No animals were harmed during the production of this show. And for more Talk Gnosis, tune in every Wednesday for new episodes. Thank you so much for joining us.